The letter M is, for some, the most important letter in the alphabet. For us, it is exemplary of everything a car is meant to be. It represents the spirit of driving, emboldened by the pursuit of perfection and affirmed by victory. And so I should have known that something was wrong in 2014, because that's when BMW introduced us to the 4 Series, a model intended to separate the 3 Series sedans from their 2-door counterparts. From that point forward, the 4 Series was meant to be a 2-door, the 3 Series was meant to be a 4-door, unless of course you ordered a 4 Series Grand Coupe, which was also a 4-door, and it made for the most confusing nomenclature possible. But on top of being confusing, what mattered more to me was the sacrifice of branding and heritage. Both fans of the brand and normal people are typically familiar with what a 3 Series is, and more importantly, they're familiar with the pinnacle of the brand, the BMW M3. Introduced in 1986, the original M3 was a homologation special, meaning it was made specifically so that BMW could go racing with it. In contrast to the normal road-going 3 Series, it was something truly special, different in almost every measurable way, and as a result, it dominated in competition, cementing its place in the history books as the winningest car in touring car history. Now, the reason this matters is because the original M3 was only ever offered as a 2-door coupe. It's part of its DNA. And that's not to say that successive M3s weren't offered in different body styles, but the M3 in its genesis was always a coupe. And after 30 years of building the M3 brand, BMW was willing to just kind of throw that away with the M4 nomenclature. It seemed to spit in the face of everything the original M3 had accomplished, including developing the very identity and brand of what the M3 is. And along with it, the meaning of the letter M: motorsport. Now, of course, BMW Motorsport's purpose was to win races, but their prime directive, if you will, was to sell cars. The M program would never exist without the benefits it provides to BMW's bottom line, hence the famous saying, win on Sunday, sell on Monday. Folks like you and me race because we love it, but it's often only funded because it lines the right pockets. All of that to say, there's no disillusion on my part that BMW's only goal is to sell cars. They are, after all, a business, and businesses exist to make money and nothing more. So it should come as a surprise to no one that BMW's M division, decades later, is only chasing the dollar. But just like the 4 Series nomenclature change, BMW officially killed the motorsport name years ago. It's just M now. It might as well stand for meaningless. Motorsports enthusiasts like you and me don't make enough of a difference in the bottom line to justify pandering to, at least not in any meaningful way. So does that make it a rhetorical question when I ask, with all due respect, BMW M, what the fuck are you guys doing? Now, I feel like for the dialogue that's happened and for what's to come to be constructive, we've got to get a few things out of the way, namely my own biases. I need to be upfront about who I am and how I feel. I consider myself to be a die-hard BMW fanatic, or at least a fanatic of some form of BMW that once was. I have owned dozens upon dozens of these cars. I have tons of them here in my shop at the moment, but I've also never owned a car newer than 1999. A look inside the shop reveals I have a very specific interest in BMWs built from the late 1960s up through the mid-1990s. I'm the guy who says silly things like they don't make them like they used to, and I insist over and over that there is nothing that offers the same driving experience as the original M cars. Not Ferrari, not Porsche, nothing. These BMWs are the best machines on the road. Outside of these cars, my interests are admittedly relatively limited. And to expand upon that, when I don't like something, I tend to go all in. I'm super opinionated, so anyone that knows me is completely unsurprised by my viewpoint about where BMW M stands today. But that doesn't mean I'm not, at minimum, well-versed in all things BMW. In fact, I spent years working with them to document their racing efforts across North America. I've photographed official press releases, I've photographed art cars, and I've spent cumulative weeks behind the wheel of everything the brand has to offer up until around 2018 or so. My own personal interests are not mutually exclusive to the respect I hold for BMWs that fall outside of my own narrow interests. I'm willing to admit that the new M3 is a good car. Great, even. Maybe not great looking, but I respect it, even if I don't like it. Nevertheless, I find myself, as an enthusiast, completely disconnected from the brand today, or, to be more specific, from BMW M. Sure, the BMW brand as a whole continues to make commuters, iteration after iteration, for the layman that wants a particular blend of performance and luxury, and they're good at it too. Just last year, they sold 332,000 cars in the United States alone. The M division, though, it always felt like something special, at least to me. The mad scientists that built the M1, I love to imagine them turning their attention to the relatively benign E28 5 Series sedan and saying, what if we put the engine from this into that? And then they kept up with their antics. They gave us the homologated E30 M3, they gave us an E36 M3 with 321 horsepower at a time when the 911 Turbo only had 270 to play with. They went on to develop the incredible driveline that powered the McLaren F1. They put a V10 in the E60. They put a V8 in the E90, so on and so forth. BMW M has changed a lot over the years, but they've gotten a lot of things right, and that brings us to today, or rather 8 months ago, with BMW's launch of the XM. Now, to be clear, I'm not picking the most egregious vehicle I can just to make a point. No, this is BMW's self-claimed first true M car since the M1 was released 45 years ago. No normal version of this car exists. Its DNA is M, bottom to top, in the most thoroughbred sense. It is representative of what BMW M is today and the future of where M will be tomorrow. So, let's talk about it. Now let's get aesthetics out of the way first. I think this is perhaps the single ugliest vehicle I've ever seen, but that's all I'm going to say about it. Looks are subjective, some folks out there are bound to like it, and harping on a car that I don't like doesn't help to illustrate where I think BMW has truly lost its way. BMW doesn't really cater to me anymore, and I know that. I can reconcile that fact. Instead, the problem begins with this guy, Mr. Van Meel, the CEO of BMW M. Now, I don't mean to single him out, but as Chief Executive Officer, for better or worse, he's going to be who I put the blame on. You see, he's the one hosting the official press launch of the XM, where the first tenets of this car are defined as, quote, highly exclusive and, quote, expressive to a customer's lifestyle. This is followed immediately by highlighting the, quote, exaggerated illuminated kidneys and the double headlights. None of this stuff whatsoever is definitively M. But he keeps going. He says there are some M-specific details, I kid you not, such as the, quote, double-spoke mirrors, which he says are, quote, typical M. 2 minutes into his presentation, and I can tell we're just not on the same page here. And moments later, the, quote, authentic, real exhaust pipes are touted as an important feature. And all of that is before we get to the self-titled backstage first-class passenger compartment. It has high-performance sports seats with special details like embroidered pillows. The prismatic roof is highlighted as being reminiscent of, quote, a nightclub with its design and color-changing LEDs. To punctuate the headliner, the next words out of BMW's mouth is that this is, quote, yet another example of why M is the most powerful letter in the world. Now, there is a long-running joke that M only now stands for marketing, and it seems like they're really just leaning into it. There's really nothing motorsport-inspired about this car. Yeah, BMW's website claims that it has, quote, track-level performance, but that is quite literally as far as the motorsport inspiration goes. Although that doesn't stop BMW from touting the fact that this is the most powerful M car in history. Now, to be fair, the Label Edition, which looks remarkably like the A-Team van, makes a genuinely impressive 738 horsepower, but all that tells me is that we have an impressively fast nightclub on 23-inch wheels. I'm still steadfast in believing that this is an M in name only. Now, on the other hand, I am happy to admit that there is a use case for this vehicle. Ignoring the aesthetics, it does seem like a nice way to be chauffeured around for a night out on the town. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel like this is an outright insult to what BMW M began as, or what it built a lineage upon. Last year marked the 50th anniversary of BMW M, and the XM is how BMW decided to honor that monumental occasion. So what gives? Is the track-level performance claimed on BMW's website what makes this an M car? Is this truly a worthy successor to the M1? Clearly, I think BMW is completely out of touch. But then again, BMW has had a habit of ignoring their own heritage. In fact, I'd argue they flat out don't care about it. The icons and the historic moments of their past are acknowledged when they're advantageous, but little respect is actually given where it is, dare I say, owed. I think that began when BMW decided to change the M colors: light blue, purple, and red. And they had meaning, believe it or not. The blue is obvious. It comes from the blue on the Bavarian flag, a big surprise coming from a company called Bavarian Motorworks. The red, on the other hand, might come as a shock. It's the color of Texaco. Are you not familiar with the BMW and Texaco partnership of the early 1970s? Well, worry not, it didn't ever actually come to fruition, but the branding work had been done, and the red stayed. And the purple is simple enough. It's what results of the union between the two. Now, I don't want to say that BMW needs to hold on to a relationship with Texaco that never happened. That might be a little bit clingy. But the colors earned their keep through the 70s and 80s as BMW and those colors dominated almost everything that they came across. Today, though, the colors have just been watered down, masculinized. The purple has given way to a boring dark blue. The vibrant red now feels muted, and even the blue, pulled from their own flag, is now just boring. Perhaps it makes sense then that the brand has followed suit with its own colors? But Mike, you say, BMW's only doing what sells cars. This is just supply and demand. Don't hate the player, hate the game. You can't fault BMW for doing what is going to sell. And you're not wrong, I can't fault you there. However, I do firmly believe that there is a way to sell a lot of cars without disrespecting your own heritage, and for that, I give you Porsche. Now, as far as I can tell, there is no car brand on Earth that pays more tribute to their own history and heritage. Hell, beginning with the 356 and on to the 911, Porsche has been stubbornly stuffing the engine in the back of their flagship car, not because it's the best solution. No, we all know that the Cayman lineup has been nerfed so it doesn't take the 911's lunch money. Porsche is doing it because that's just the way that it's supposed to be. It's what it was. It's what built the brand. It's what Porsche owners want. And sure, there's room for vehicles like Porsche's Cayenne to exist. I don't expect Porsche to cater to 911 owners and 911 owners only. In fact, we wouldn't have the 911 without the Cayenne, given it saved the company upon its introduction. And so I do implore BMW to make vehicles like the XM. I don't actually have a problem with the car itself. Just please, for the love of God, Mr. Van Meel, don't bastardize the M brand while you make it. Frankly, this isn't even your brand to water down. You might be in charge at the moment, but BMW M will be around long after you're gone and moved on to the next brand that offers you a significant pay raise, just like BMW bought you from Audi. I've been with BMW longer than your presence, and I'll be here after, and unfortunately, the stains you're leaving behind on the M legacy will be here too. Now, if any diehard BMW guys have made it this far into this video, past the absolute flogging I've given our favorite marque, I will at least give some credit where credit is due. For example, BMW recently announced the return of the 3.0 CSL, a wide-body 553 horsepower monster that pays direct tribute to its predecessor and the very car that got M started, the E9 3.0 CSL. The motorsport blood that courses through this car's veins is still pumped by an inline 6-cylinder engine, although now, 50 years later, it wears a pair of turbochargers. And it also wears the same stripes as its ancestor, although I'll point out again that the colors aren't quite right. Now you might think, Mike, this is BMW doing exactly what you're asking for. Your entire argument is silly. And I'd be inclined to agree if BMW didn't price this dressed-up fancy M4 at a staggering $780,000. It's quite literally 10 times the price of a standard M4 for what, 80 extra horsepower and some spicy fenders? And it's also limited to just 50 units, so is this really a motorsport car, or is it just a marketing exercise? And I do feel required to acknowledge and appreciate BMW's recent entry into LMDH prototype racing, although it's tough to find it what I would call accessible. Grand Touring prototypes are cool if you're into that kind of thing, but it's about as unrelatable as it gets for the layman. It's not like DTM, where I can watch the silhouette of a car I can buy on a showroom floor race against the competition, and it's not like Formula 1 that represents the best of the best. Instead, it's just weird. It's cool, but it's weird. It's hard to love the BMW of today the same way that I love the BMW from the past. Some may dismiss that as looking back through rose-colored glasses, but for the most part, I got to participate in some of BMW's history. I've made friends with crew chiefs, drivers, and even figureheads within BMW corporate, some of which will undoubtedly be brokenhearted when they see that I've decided to make this video. Maybe my frustrations will be dismissed as warrantless, or maybe now I'm the quote old man yelling at clouds. But while I watch Germany's other big three, Mercedes, Audi, and Porsche, all at least try to make something happen within Formula 1, BMW's busy getting hacked by D, a bizarre concept car that focuses more on driver avatars than the driving experience, which is maddening coming from a car company that brands itself as the ultimate driving machine. Now, I should admit that I've been brash and abrasive through this video, and I should also admit that BMW is steadfastly focused on the future, and that is admirable. But what I don't feel like BMW is doing is focusing on enthusiasts, even if only in some minor capacity. BMW was my first love. I grew up loving these cars, and I'm always going to come back to them no matter what. I've spent the last 15 years building a community around a shared love for these machines, and that only comes from the heart. But that very same community is left scratching their heads, feeling totally disconnected from the efforts the brand is making today. Frankly, BMW, none of us get it. Now, I don't want to speak on everyone's behalf, but I know my feelings are echoed through massive swaths of the community. BMW may, or certainly will be selling cars in the future, but I can't help to imagine it ain't gonna be to people like us. Now, I neither expect nor want BMW to stop making cars that don't cater to me. I do, however, think there's value in respecting your own legacy. Again, if the Cayenne can exist side by side with the Porsche GT3 RS, then there's room for the letter M to still mean something important. We're all finally reaching an age where we can buy these new machines, despite the hard economic and social challenge this generation has faced. But those of us that grew up adoring this brand, are we the ones that will be buying these forward-facing BMWs? I don't have an answer because I can't see the future. However, I have nothing but frustration for a brand I care so deeply about. The negativity I express is because I care immensely. It feels like my own brand forgot about people like me in the chase for sales, especially in foreign markets. And yeah, that makes sense on paper. I get it, it's business. But man, if it isn't the worst feeling in the world as a diehard BMW enthusiast, mostly because I know it doesn't have to feel this way. It only feels this way because BMW lost their way somewhere along the line. So this isn't a video to push BMW to not make something like the XM. It's a reminder that enthusiasts are still here, but it feels like the best we've gotten is an LMDH car that isn't relatable at all, or a CSL that's rumored to cost as much as a house that I'll never be able to afford anyway. However, I want to say one last thing, and that's that I'm open to changing my mind. Despite my current dispositions, I do want to love BMW again. So I'll challenge anyone here to tell me what they think, and moreover, I'll challenge anyone at BMW to change my mind, put me behind the wheel, and show me I have no idea what I'm talking about. Because BMW, if you can change my mind, I'll be your best ambassador. So, the ball is now in your court. All right, I've said my piece. That is where the script ends. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you agreed with me, or even if you disagreed with me, let me know in the comments. Let's have a discussion about it, because what's important to note is that I'm open to being wrong. I very well could just be the guy who doesn't get it. I could be stuck in my ways, or I just don't appreciate what BMW's up to now. And I want you guys to help me change my mind if that is the case. But with that said, if you enjoyed this video, if you think it's worth chatting about, or if you think you know somebody that would like it, send it to them. It helps this channel grow. Leave a comment, leave a like, or subscribe if you haven't. And as always, thank you guys for supporting the channel. And last but not least, a thank you to BMW for making cars that I truly love and for making me the enthusiast that I am. As I said before, this entire video comes from a serious passion for machines that I love and a brand that I love even more. So, with that said, I will always be a BMW guy, even if I'm not really into the cars they're making today. But that could change. We'll have to find out.